We are having back to our program Jerry Gidel, he's going to speak about very strong rallies after a week of rallies for soybeans, corn, and wheat. And he's going to answer if soybeans is going to reach $11 a bushel. Right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. So Jerry Gidel, how are you? Why are those rallies so strong this week?
Well, you know, it's interesting in the fact that part of the things on corn and soybeans, technically they kind of broke out last week against above some previous highs that were in the market on December corn and December wheat. And so it opened up the ideas. At times they were a little shot back and forth, but corn actually was very strong during the week. And beans kind of lackluster until today. It come back through and made another push right on the close. So everybody's having fun today.
Yes, and do you think that the fundamentals of soybeans are strong enough to reach the levels of $11?
Oh, definitely is a possibility, and particularly if the combination of concerns in South America, and it really might not always be in Brazil. It could also be in Argentina. The implications of La Nina and its traditional impacts around the world tends to end up having an impact. Now, we've had some rains in Argentina this week or recently in that, so it's kind of stabilized a little bit there. And there's supposed to be rains coming into Mato Grosso and Goiás this weekend, and then maybe around all next week, which is now the big question is some people even have added to their thought that, well, now all of a sudden we're behind on planting and now we had the rain, and so we won't plant next week, so we're even pushing it back further. So boy, I tell you, there's all different angles on this at times, but in general, the dryness in South America, and that's traditionally a part of the worldwide phenomenon La Nina is a factor as we look forward. And at this point, wow, we've got a lot of stuff on the books. Actually, that's another big question right there. Will we have further reductions in our old crop carryover?
Yes, and I'm seeing that a lot of fields affected by the derecho winds in Iowa won't be able to harvest, and yet we are not going to have a lot of ethanol demand. How are you seeing the corn outlook?
Yeah, the corn situation is definitely muddled, as you pointed out there. We've lost some production. In some cases, some of those fields were just so pressed flat that there really wasn't an opportunity to get anything on them, and that's highly unusual. In most cases, we're always talking 200 plus corn in Iowa and Illinois type situations. First, they thought, well, we're going to be off so many bushels and so many acres, but you know, when the 500,000 acres were impacted on it, and now maybe that total number of acres plus the other quick thing that's happened in the corn has been the corn on corn phenomena that impacts its yields in certain years. And this particular year, with the kind of weather we had that came in towards pollination and continued on dry all the way into September, is not usually the best phenomena for corn on corn. From there, it tends to end up having difficulty in keeping the potential of that crop in. And I've heard particularly a lot of concerns about it west of the Mississippi. I would say that that's a stronger idea in Iowa and Nebraska than maybe Illinois has some corn on corn too, but maybe just not as much. There's always been a little more enthusiasm for soybeans here west of the Mississippi, or east of the Mississippi. I'm forgetting what side of the Mississippi. We're on the east side over here. Sorry.
Yes, and Michael Zuzlo this week won't be on the screen because they had a lot of paperwork. So I invite Jerry to comment about wheat. We are over $6, and it's a very strong price. Probably not expected by a lot of people given the prices of previous years. Do you see that this is going to last?
Well, I think that there's some uncertainty. It's all built around our friends in Russia. The Black Sea issues have definitely not. We've had a few scattered rains in Russia. Actually, there's been more rains in Ukraine, but even Ukraine is this time of year is going to have more of an impact on corn output. And at this point, even the corn is maybe a little further along to get it. It's not so much that that they don't have a crop that they're harvesting now. It's the issue of the fact that there's lots of talk of 12, 15% less seedings in Russia because you do need to get it established. You do need to get it up in some type of small stage of growth before it can go into dormancy. And their weather over there can be even more treacherous to wheat if it doesn't have a good establishment. So that's really the biggest factor that's going on. We did have a little bit of excitement here the last few days with some adjustments in Argentina's output by the Buenos Aires Exchange. They took it down to 16.8 million metric tons from 17, I think 17.5, 17.7, something like that. Anyway, it turns out that that adjustment's not huge, but it just takes away a little bit more of that South American competition, or Southern Hemisphere. We got Argentina as a place for wheat, and also Australia. Australia's crop is looking very good, but I guess some of the areas of Western Australia have not been as strong as some people thought. So maybe there's a slight difference there. But the other question is that China and Australia have got into a tiff about different things. So there might be some more buying and wheat into, well, it could be the U.S., particularly with Russia's crop being shaky, and now Argentina's crop maybe not as large as expected. So that's a big unknown for the U.S. Right now, do I think it's a $7 item? Not so sure about that. I think there's a $6.50, $6.75 possibility in Chicago wheat from there. But we also got to keep an eye on, there's some talk or some ideas in the forecast that there could be some very positive rains for areas south of Kansas, eastern Kansas on through Oklahoma and Texas in this next coming week here. And that would be super positive for the U.S. wheat crop. It's also having needs for moisture at this time.
And I can add that the Brazilian wheat production is not very significant, but it is getting smaller this season. So probably we would need more U.S. wheat.
Exactly right. Because of the connection of your non-tariff relationship with Uruguay and Argentina, the prospects there of getting a lot of wheat moving back and forth from those other two southern suppliers is not as good. And that really jumps into the other big news that happened in Brazil, was that they offered out the fact that they were going to reduce their corn, soybeans, and wheat tariffs from outside Mercosur, I think is how that's pronounced, the trade agreement there with in South America. And lots of people trying to scratch their head if it economically work, will it happen, that kind of stuff. Right now, though, U.S. is probably the one of the few places that has some excess supply that could still supply corn, soybeans, and wheat to Brazil if they've oversold their particular supplies at this time.
And what are you expecting for the coming week?
Well, last week I was looking for a little bit more of a two-sided sideways action. I didn't get that, so we're in a kind of a positive kind of mood here. I kind of feel like that this market could still have some reactions to the rain event that's going to happen in Brazil this coming week. maybe not. Maybe we're going to get into the idea that we can't get it planted, and we're going to delay some more, and that means more U.S. sales into February on soybeans and that type of things. And it also screws up corn in South America, and particularly Brazil. If we don't get the beans planted and get out of the way, then they can't get the corn in to have corn at the end of the year. I guess I'd have to say that I'm slightly positive here. The other thing is we're the October crop report, the November crop report is most likely at this point it's expected to be slightly lower. I don't look for a huge change or anything like that, but I think there could be a half a bushel or more on beans and maybe a bushel or a bushel and a half on corn taken off these USDA numbers, and that just puts a little bit more of a tighter thing. And that's really what's happened is that we kind of stall out in news, and then all of a sudden the market backs up a little bit, but nobody wants to sell it because there's too many uncertainties in front of us. And I kind of feel like that's kind of where we're at right now, unless we can find, as somebody said, we might be a macro event. I'm not sure what that means. I guess that'd be the idea that and the elections might have an impact on the thing, or maybe something in the energy world that could come in here and slap the market down. But at this point, I'm not sure how I can really define what that is or isn't at this point, because right now we've all of a sudden have a very positive kind of mental attitude about what's out ahead of us.
And I think what's one of the things that are positive for the midterm perspective are the Chinese economic data.
Mm-hmm. They are being positive over there and how their economy is going. And also that's all back into that, our whole feed demand going in there with a stronger livestock, primarily, let's just say hogs, the pork demand and the expansion of their pork numbers over there continues to look good. And the uncertainties of what's happened with their corn crop, I hear there's very strong prices over there in China, and they've also moved a lot of stuff out of their reserves already. So it's going to make it interesting. The combination of feed from corn and then the protein to go along with the new, to them at least, style of production of livestock like we do here in the West has been the big change in their style of pork production. And I think that's in the background all the time.
Jerry Gidel, always bright. Thank you.
Oh, it's always good to talk, Louis, and we'll look forward to next week.